Hi, welcome back to Elements in Focus. Today we're going to be talking about avoiding probate pitfalls. My name is Rheaume. I'm the Director of Financial Planning here at the Financial Enhancement Group, and I've got Daren Hardesty here with me. Daren's a certified financial planner and operates out of our Anderson and Lafayette office. Daren, how are you?
I'm doing good, Aaron. Glad to be here.
If you're new or just tuning in, every week the advisor team at FEG puts together what we call an Elements in Focus, and that is where we are breaking down part of our 5 critical elements. And this week we're focused on legacy planning. So as you can see on the screen, things we talk about are your life after work, tax planning, the investment playbook, risk management, life happens. And again, we're going to talk about avoiding probate pitfalls. Before we start, Daren, what is probate? Can you give an explanation of probate altogether? And then we'll wrap up with the second question on how to avoid probate.
Yeah, definitely. Probate's one of those words that people hear, I think, a lot. Most people, if you've lived long enough or you've had family members, parents who have passed away, you may have experienced probate. But probate is just the legal process that is in place for every person to make sure that their estate is properly finalized. This includes, making sure that all end of life expenses are covered, any debts that need to be paid, making sure that all the distributions from the estate are carried out. It generally takes the process, it involves an attorney, and every state has a little bit different rules as far as what type of estate or what size of your estate requires you to go through probate. With the attorney involved, it generally takes about 9 months for most estates to be completely closed. So it's a time consuming process. It comes with a lot of additional fees that go towards attorneys for helping through the process that has to be carried out. But it's just in general what most people expect to happen when they get to when they've passed away and how you can properly close an estate. Now, within probate, something that is really important for people to understand before we kind of talk about how to avoid it is that probate is controlled through your will. So everybody has a will. The legal term is testate or intestate, meaning if you have your own will that you've created with an attorney or maybe a platform that you've created your own will or you've written your will, that's called dying. If you die with that will that you've created, it's called dying testate. If you don't have something that you've created, then the state of Indiana or whatever state you live in will provide the will for you to make sure that whatever their rules are as far as how assets are distributed, that you kind of follow the state of Indiana's rules. So everybody has a will. That's really important to understand, and that will controls that probate process. So kind of the next question, Aaron, that you're leading into, and I apologize, I'm going to steal in the question from you, but how do you avoid it, the probate? Why wouldn't you want to go through probate? Well, probate's expensive. Probate's time consuming. Most people can, pass their assets on to their beneficiaries without the need of probate. But it takes proactive estate planning to be able to do that. So in the estate planning kind of order of operations of how assets pass from one generation to the next, there's different vehicles that you can use to avoid that probate process. The most common one is beneficiary designations. So if you have an IRA, 401k, life insurance, things like that, you can put beneficiaries on those, and those beneficiaries that are named will automatically receive that money upon your passing. Now, it doesn't happen overnight, but it definitely happens a lot faster than 9 months of the probate process. It generally takes enough time for the custodians to receive the death certificate and properly pass the assets onto the named beneficiaries. There's also what's called transfer on death designations. You'll see those sometimes on brokerage accounts, like investment accounts. You can also see those on the title or deed of your home. You can put a transfer on death designation on that. Acts the same way as a beneficiary designation on another account. There's also payable on death. Those are typically what you see when you name a beneficiary on a bank account. But they all essentially work the same way. They go first. So if you have named individuals, those accounts with those beneficiaries named, that money never goes through your will. It goes directly to the beneficiaries, and meaning that it avoids the probate process. Outside of that, setting up a revocable living trust. Trusts avoid probate as well. Anything that's owned by your trust prior to you passing away, it avoids that probate process so that you don't have to worry about going through that. And it still carries out all the wishes that your will may have had, just through a different legal document called a trust. So with all of our families that we work with, and the people that that are going to hear this that aren't an FEG family, our number one objective with estate planning always is to avoid probate. There's really no need for most people to experience a probate process in their estate. So looking into the weeds and finding all the big accounts, all the small stuff, and making sure that we have it set up, whatever strategy makes the most sense for the family, to make sure that those assets never have to go through 9 months of probate, that your family doesn't have to wait 9 months and pay attorneys a big chunk of money to complete that. I'm not going to say everybody should avoid probate. There's different reasons, but I can tell you that for the vast majority of people, that's our number one objective. Make sure that we're avoiding that probate process using these strategies that we have. It doesn't take a whole lot of work. It just takes a little bit of time to look through everything and make sure that everybody feels comfortable with the plan and understands all the risks involved with the plan that is set up. So probate, it's necessary to have it in there for people who don't do proactive estate planning. But if you are somebody who wants to get ahead of the game and make sure that you have more control over how the assets pass from your estate to your kids or grandkids, there are definitely strategies out there that make it a much smoother and seamless process, which again is a blessing for your beneficiaries and anybody who's going to partake in that process. So probate, it's kind of a word that we don't like to hear, and we do everything we can at FEG to make sure none of our families have to go through that if there's anything we can do to stop it.
Thank you so much for Daren, and he just unpacked a lot of information in a quick amount of time. So if you have questions and want to make sure your estate plan and your beneficiary designations are in line with your wants and wishes, please reach out to us. Schedule your complimentary next steps meeting. That will be an hour-and-a-half meeting where we go over things that you can think about today, things to think about in the future, and if you decide to partner together, a written plan for what FEG will do for you and your family. You can reach out to us at 800-928-4001. Go to yourlifeafterwork.com, fill out our contact us information form, or scan that QR code on the screen. Thank you so much for watching. You all have a blessed day.